Are we looking at something where it's like, now, Timmy, remember, you drink from the white fountain.
Wow.
And don't you dare sit in the back of the bus.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, that's what I imagine this is. Or like, don't you say that word or the imaginary guy in the sky's gonna spank you.
It's
like, is that what this is? What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for being with us today. This is the Deviance Welcome Podcast, brought to you by Volatile Patience. I'm John, and with me, as always, my co-host, Sel. Say hi to the people, Sel.
Hi, the people.
Fantastic. So today we are going through our monthly review of all the topics that we didn't get to during March. We've got a decent size list, but I'd just like to point out that my co-host Sel here decided to take the week off. So if his points are lacking, I'm going to rip on him every chance I get. So just in case you start feeling sorry for the guy, I want you to know right out the gate, everything is warranted. Everything is called for. And with that, let's dive right in. So Governor Ron DeSantis, one of my favorite people, I feel like he and Abbott from Texas get together
Friends
for
of the
hate
show.
rallies and shit. Right. Friends of the program. Exactly. In that we get to them all the time. He signed a bill on the 28th of March that is officially called, I love this, it's officially called the Parental Rights in Education Bill. By the opposition, it is affectionately named the Don't Say Gay Bill.
Affectionately might be a strong word, but
Well.
yes.
Let's see. It basically, I mean, putting it in very simplified terms,
Sure.
it's supposed to like prohibit the classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity between like kindergarten and third grade.
Right.
Because, that's a very hot topic.
Sure.
Right? Hot topic.
That's what every kindergarten teacher is trying to talk to their kids about.
Exactly.
Is sexuality and gender identity. They're
Well,
definitely doing that.
Absolutely. And I wonder, like, my first thought is, okay, they're doing this K through 3 when it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So this seems to me like they're probably just laying groundwork for higher grades eventually. It could be.
Maybe.
That was just my first thought.
Right. I feel like it's probably just conservatives thinking like the gay agenda is something that they're starting that young,
Of course.
like they think because they go out and convert their kids to good old conservative Christian ethics right off the bat as soon as they're out of the fucking womb. Right. But and so they assume that anybody else who has any other kind of agenda is doing the exact same thing.
Or anybody.
Get them while they're young and fucking brainwash them into your shit as early as you can, as opposed to just trying to create a space where people who exist a certain way are safe and free to exist the way they want to.
Right. Anybody that is different is automatically, like, actionably the opposition.
Right.
Because you are building your Christian army.
Right.
The
Exactly.
transgender community is obviously out grooming kids K through 3
Sure.
to be transgender
Right
then
to get the transgender army going.
They are
or
fucking
something
recruiting.
like that.
And in this country we can only groom for Christianity and conservatism.
Right.
And we can only do that.
Yes. So
it seems
and capitalism in general. writ large,
right.
But
we can only groom one way here in this country.
Yes.
Grooming is bad unless it's
our
our way.
And like I understand with what you're trying to say with grooming, but I do want to push back against that specific word because that specific word is for like sexual exploitation.
Okay.
And to agree, yes, there is an amount of sexual exploitation in the Catholic Church, especially.
For those of you who don't know, my arms are completely out.
John's like, this is a valid use because all of these fucking church pastors are fucking kids. Fuck them.
Right. Make my point for me.
Sure.
Thank you, Sal.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, transgender people are not trying to fucking groom these kids for sexual exploitation. Well, they're trying to create a space for them that if they are transgender or gay or whatever, then they're allowed to fucking, be that.
Right. And the reason I chose the word grooming is because I was speaking like dumb conservative.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Sure.
So that doesn't understand that these people are just trying to live their goddamn lives without having to deal with stupid conservatives getting in their business.
Right.
But like, yeah, they assume, and I've gotten into discussions with conservatives on social media about this. I've brought it up on the podcast, I think. Genuinely believe that transgender people are out recruiting.
Right.
I'm like, for what?
For what?
This is what? If anything,
that's absurd.
And I can't speak authoritatively on this subject, but I feel like in a lot of alternative communities or taboo communities that I am a part of, like the self-policing is far greater than it is in like general public. So I say that to say this, that I feel like the transgender community would be a lot more apt to push away those that are less than genuine.
Sure.
Right? Because they're polluting. They're setting the wrong example. I mean, you know what I mean?
There's as far as I understand it, there is like a lot of discussion within the trans community about gatekeeping versus acceptance, but like, and it has to do with, whether or not a person is choosing to undergo any kind of medical assistance in transition, or if they're just taking on an identity,
right?
Stuff like that. Stuff that, frankly, I don't feel like I have any kind of a say in. Not
my business.
Right.
Not my body, not my business.
Exactly. What I think would be hilarious, though, is if somebody were shooting for gender non-essentialist type legislation, that they're saying that as parents, they have a right to not have their kids exposed to gender conforming behavior, like teachers aren't allowed to tell your K-3 kids that boys aren't allowed to play with dolls type thing. You know what I mean? Like that's the exact same phenomenon on the other foot, right? And what would the conservative reaction to that be?
Right.
And how absurd is it, honestly, really? Like at the end of the day, like fucking just let the kids be kids.
That's where I'm at with it. It's like there is a line here where you've got teachers, right, that weren't talking to their K-3 kids about, sexual identity or anything like that anyway.
Right.
But if one of those kids happens to come up with a question, now that teacher just goes, I don't know how to proceed. Give me a second. Let me talk to my administration and see what I'm legally allowed to tell you so I don't get sued today.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or imprisoned, or whatever the penalties are.
Right. Exactly. And with that, I feel like this is just another, we're going to circle back to parent your own kids. But like in that way, you have to have that line drawn so the teacher can still be supportive.
Right.
And the parent then filters everything out. Your kid is not going to be subjected to only the stimuli that you want them to be subjected to.
Right.
Right.
That's just life.
Right. You have to teach them to deal with that too. And I understand that's a hard concept, right? I hate that my kid is going to have to go to school and learn how to deal with bullying, right? It sucks, but I can't stop that.
Right.
So what can I do as a parent? Do my best to support him.
Right.
Right? And just be there.
Yeah.
Let the kids be kids. We don't need this kind of like legislation.
Right. It's
legislation.
Laws
this
being
is
passed.
Right. This is what governmental bodies are choosing to spend their time and money on.
Right.
Speaking of spending money, right? We had we had the Disney employees that walked out.
Sure.
There was 100 of them I think at Disney headquarters in California.
Okay.
Walked out because their CEOs weren't doing enough.
Right.
And
to push back against.
And Disney World is in Florida.
Right.
Right. So they had issues there. And I guess now Disney has kind of jumped on board and are are kind of pulling money because they were contributing to DeSantis, from what I understood.
I mean, like, big corporations typically spend money on Republicans because low taxes.
Exactly. So they're, from what I understand, they're pulling back some of their funding now.
Okay.
Which, of course, is lighting the conservative fire.
Sure.
Because Disney's being woke.
Oh, no.
And, they're contributing to the woke grooming of our kids. Oh. And that was an actual quote I read, by the way.
Great.
Yeah, that was an actual quote. So I thought this was amusing. The Daily Wire, for those of you who don't know, this is where Ben Shapiro lives. When he's not making his wife's vagina more and more dry.
So dry.
They have planned. They are planning to invest $100 million over the next 3 years to produce, and I quote, conservative kids programming. This is the co-CEO of the company says they're going to make content that conservative Christians agree with. In competition with Disney's woke programming.
Have you ever watched any of that stuff from like back in the 80s? It's bad.
I have not. Like, I gotta wonder. I'm like, are we looking at something where it's like, now, Timmy, remember, you drink from the white fountain.
Wow.
And don't you dare sit in the back of the bus.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, that's what I imagine this is. Or like, don't you say that word or the imaginary guy in the sky is going to spank you. It's like, is that what this is?
It's probably just going to be like a reboot of VeggieTales.
I never watched it. I am aware that VeggieTales existed, but I never watched it. My parents tried to be religious for like a few weeks,
sure.
I think.
Sure.
And like, I've been to church a few times, but that's the extent.
Yeah.
Into
it was, I don't know. I don't know what they think they're going to do with this shit because, like, honestly, what does it really come down to that Disney's doing that's so bad as far as their programming? Right? Like,
it's because they're being more inclusive with their programming.
Right. They have more movies that feature brown people now.
Right. Of course. And they're in hero positions. Right. They're not just villains.
Right.
Stuff like that.
Right.
Like they're I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't
like
understand.
I remember there was a big uproar in the live action Beauty and the Beast that came out.
Okay.
Was
it just because it was bad?
No.
I don't know. I didn't actually see it. So
me either. The SO really likes it. She really likes it. She kept trying to get me to watch it, and I watched some of it until she fell asleep, and I was like, "Boop! I've seen this movie.
Right.
I don't like that.
Right.
Anyway, they all got mad because Gaston's little lackey dude. Apparently
or whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah, the one that was trying to prop him up all the time.
Yeah.
Apparently in the live action one, he is gay.
Okay.
And it's so horrible. We can't possibly have that. And
why?
That's my question. Why? Because it's not Christian. Because it's not America. It is though.
But it's France. Right, like,
but it's France.
That's where Beauty and the Beast takes place, right? Like,
but we're showing it in America, so France has to look American. Remember how in Aladdin all these Arabic people are speaking perfect English?
I mean, sure, because you're showing it in America, but you know what they're not wearing? Like suits and Jenkos,
right? That would have been fucking hilarious. Anyway, I mean, I don't know, the don't say gay bill, all this legislation, it's useless effort.
Yeah.
Focus on climate change.
Well, they don't want to focus on that.
Right.
They need to fill that space with something to justify pulling a paycheck.
Right.
And it can't be anything that's actually good for anybody.
Right. Speaking of wasted effort, we did not touch on this last week, but we're going to this week. Leah Thomas.
Yeah, we totally didn't even touch on that at all.
Finally, the conservatives are caring about women's rights and something. That's cool, right? No.
Sure.
No, just kidding.
No.
They just hate trans people. They don't care about the sanctity of the competition value of women's sports because they don't care about the women's national team being paid properly in soccer.
Right.
They don't care about the WNBA making, as much money as
the NBA
and as the lowest paid NBA players.
Oh, Jesus.
They don't care.
Right.
But apparently we care that a transgender swimmer was swimming in a women's NCAA final.
Uh-huh. Well, two were, actually.
Okay.
A trans woman was swimming on the women's team in the WNBA or NCAA final or whatever. Fuck it. Sports. Fuck it. It's letters.
This is fun
but,
for me.
But also a trans man who has not started any kind of gender-affirming therapies, medical treatments, also competed on the women's team because he is not taking testosterone and other hormone therapies and things like that right now. There were actually 2 trans people on that team.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole thing was on Leah Thomas.
Because and one of them is a trans man who has not started hormone therapy yet.
Okay. I did not know that. That's interesting. Okay. Do you know his name?
I did not catch his name.
Okay.
I did not catch his name. It was something where I was kind of like doom scrolling and kind of caught some of the tidbits and some of the highlights of this where I was just kind of like, oh, okay, so it's, conservatives being assholes as usual and, really making much ado about nothing.
But just to be clear, he is swimming for the
women's...
he is competing against women because he has not yet started therapy.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Has not started any kind of medical,
like actionable physical steps.
Right.
Would be, I think, a decent way to say that.
I'm sure there's plenty of mental health stuff going on because there's all that
right,
that has to be done beforehand.
Of course.
But as far as like any kind of medical steps, those have not been taken yet.
Nothing that would impact athleticism.
Right.
So, and I mean, I know you had said last week that the NCAA did everything that they're supposed to.
As far as I'm concerned.
And here's where I land with it. In terms of the rules as they are set now, I see no issue. That's the rule that is set now, right? Leah Thomas, congratulations.
Right.
Good for you.
Good for you.
She won in the 500. And then she competed in a couple more in an Atlanta competition.
Yes.
Where she tied for 5th. And then was in 8th.
Right.
And just to be clear, the first place finish that she had was still 9 seconds off of Katie Ledecky, which is like the champion. That's like our best female swimmer in our Olympic swimmer, the champion of our Olympic
9 seconds off of the best cis woman swimmer.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
And so I mean, but we're, it's a question of integrity. It's a question of, is this a problem? And it's like, okay, all right, here's my deal. The case could be made if you're looking if you're looking at a different situation. This one, obviously, it wasn't that big of a problem.
Right.
You're just using it as your basis for your argument. You don't give a fuck about women's swimming.
Right.
I know you don't.
You
know how I know? You know how I know? That Olympic champion was put on a meme and put out into the world. And a conservative is like, we can always tell. Very muscular build, very male. It was Katie Ledecky, a cis female swimmer.
Right.
Like, So no, you can't always tell.
Right.
But this is not about the integrity of the sport.
No, of course not.
And I, being a sports fan, I don't watch swimming often.
Sure.
But I understand that there are some instances where, when you've taken those actionable steps, yes. And in certain sports, like especially like combat sports, like the UFC and stuff like that.
Sure.
There are instances where, okay, we're looking at an unfair advantage here.
Right.
But I felt like, and somebody posted this week because I was trying to really wrap my head around it because I can understand both sides of that argument, even though I understand that argument is not really that argument.
I mean, like, yeah, if you were to do like a good faith interpretation where the people making the argument are actually arguing in good faith.
If that's actually the argument they were making,
if they
and
were
not just their best point.
Right.
That's not what they really mean.
That's not what they really care about at all. They are just trying to make any kind of an argument and make it seem like it's not bigotry.
Exactly. But
and look, like I'm going to make the same point that I made the last time we talked about this subject, is that the real issue in all of this is like the fact that a gender division at all exists, and that the reason that this gender division at all exists is because capitalism is the driving force behind all of these sports, right? Like if you have all men teams playing against all women teams in something that, size and muscle density is likely to give you an advantage. Football, right. Like, I'm not going to say that there couldn't be a woman's team out there that could cream any man's team, right? But that team is going to be a lot harder to come by.
If you take the champions of a female football league,
right,
and the Super Bowl champions from the NFL,
right,
chances are it's going to be lopsided.
Right.
Not for any other reason than genetics.
Right.
That is a real thing that happens.
It's just muscle mass, bone density, and fucking size.
But let me be 100% clear. We here on Deviance Welcome know full well that's just your best talking point.
Right.
You just hate trans people.
Right.
And that's really what this is about. I found a solution. Because like I had mentioned, I see that disparity.
Sure.
There is that nuance. And
yes.
I had seen somebody that posted on Facebook, why not for individual sports, get rid of men's and women's, just have weight classes.
Yeah, okay.
And there's your thing. Because let's be real here, a 200-pound swimmer is going to have a different result genetically, just based on genetics, right? Than a 150-pound swimmer.
Sure.
They're going to swim different times because weight classes, because height classes.
Right.
So for individual sports, there's no reason we can't just go co-ed. I mentioned it
I'm
before
here
on the
for it.
podcast. When I was a kid, I played soccer, and I had a girl on my team.
Uh-huh.
And
she was the best one on the team.
We used her all the time because she was better than 90% of our team every single year. And 100% of our team most years.
Uh-huh.
Like, she was awesome. We loved having her on the team. But for this instant, why don't we just do that? And I feel like if it were actually the case, if you didn't already know that they were just using this as the best talking point,
sure,
you can tell that this is their best talking point by giving them a check. You give them a solution like this. Well, why not just weight classes? Right?
Yeah.
You solve the problem, save the integrity
to a certain
while
degree.
Keeping.
I mean, I'm not going to say that like weight classes itself is a end all be all of solving the
but
problem.
You offer a solution.
But it is a start.
Right. Inclusion plus solution to your bunny ears integrity of the sport claim.
Right.
And then watch them make another argument.
Sure.
That's. I mean, you see right through that shit.
Yeah.
But you know what? Congratulations to Leah Thomas.
Yeah.
And the other swimmer as well. Do you remember his name?
I like I said, I don't remember his name. I don't know where he placed. I just know that he was also on the team and was on the team as, it was a man on the team because he has not started any kind of hormone therapy yet.
Well, Sel didn't do his homework this week, so we're going to blame that one on him
That's
too.
all my fault.
That is all his fault.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Although not doing my homework, I still knew that fact more than the guy who did his homework. So what are we going to say on that one?
Somebody wants a cookie. Somebody wants a cookie. I'm not giving you a cookie.
I didn't know she tied for fifth. I did know she got fifth and eighth.
Yeah. Well, the person who did his homework didn't know that. On a lighter note, we are looking at no daylight savings time.
Yes.
In the future. Sort of. The Senate has approved a bill
to make it permanent.
In 2023.
Which
is no more fucking with our clocks.
No more fucking with our clocks, but also for some reason, America in the line of time zones is going to be an hour ahead of like Canada all year round instead of just in the summer.
That's right.
Like, we're so fucking stupid. Like, it's not make daylight savings time permanent. Get fucking rid of daylight savings time.
Go back to standard and
period. Be on the same time as everybody fucking else.
Right.
This doesn't, like, we live in 2022. There's lights anywhere you want them. I have a light in my pocket all the time. What the fuck do I need daylight savings time for? If you're talking about for fucking farmers or some shit, like, fuck, they could just fucking set up some lights. If it's really that important, they can just set up some lights. But, like...
As a grower, that light in the summer is important.
Well, right, but here's the thing.
Not this important.
The plants don't give a fuck about what time it is when the sun actually comes out.
Sal, this is another one of those times where I have to put your commie ass in its place. Here in America, we measure things in inches, and we fucking stay an hour ahead of Canada. You understand me? You get it right or you can get out. Some of the supporters have said the loss of... And I feel this one. the loss of sleep seems to impact for days afterwards when we go to daylight savings time.
Sure.
Fall back is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so amazing waking up the day
Right.
after we fall back.
Right.
But then the
Because
day
you get that
jumping
extra
forward,
hour.
that sucks.
Yes.
When we
For like a week.
bunny ears spring forward,
Yeah.
it does. It sucks for days to even a week
Right.
afterwards.
But that's the thing. Why would they then decide on, in trying to fix this problem, staying on the sprung forward time? Like, part of the reason that fucks with us is also because it's fucking with our biological clock, right? Like, regular time is kind of sort of based around what the cycle of the seasons are doing, and now we're changing what time it is in order to make more use of daylight, which is the thing that's part of the reason why we're getting so fucked by that, right? So instead, we're now going to be fucked by that year round. We're trying to change physics through, like, legislation.
But this is another one of those things I want to label under lots of effort, or I mean, this wasn't really a lot of effort, I'm sure, because a lot of people agree upon it apparently. But I mean, this is effort that could be spent, I don't know, making sure that we're taking care of the environment.
Sure.
Making sure that we're not spending billions of dollars more on military budget and things like that. Like, this is effort that could be better spent somewhere else.
The not jumping around win. I'll take it. Sure. But it seems to me like the jumping around in a way, or the ending jumping around in a way where you're now permanently
jumped forward
is like, are you fucking stupid?
No, we have to separate ourselves from the rest of the world. We're the best country in the world. We can't be doing things like everybody else. So, I don't know if you heard about this. Will Smith smacked the fuck out of Chris Rock.
I didn't hear anything about it.
Not at all?
Tell me all. Of course I heard about it.
So, did you watch any of the videos?
No.
Okay.
It's not, anything that I've been, like, super intrigued by. I mean, like, I have my position on it, but, like, beyond that.
Like, from the couple videos that I saw, it looked like Chris Rock made a joke about Jada looking like G.I. Jane. Because she has alopecia
and had to shave her head.
Right. And it seemed to me...
And also, I've been hearing that there was some subtext of their open relationship status kind of wedged in that joke.
I don't know. I didn't hear the whole joke.
It's some kind of reference to the G.I. Jane thing. I don't know details.
Could be. And you know what? We'll touch on that briefly, too.
Sure.
But from what I understand, it was the G.I. Jane joke that was a thing. I don't know if it was an edit after the fact or if that was just the broadcast itself, but it looked like Will chuckled at first.
Okay.
And Jada kind of gave a look that was like, and then all of a sudden the camera cuts back and Will Smith is up on stage and whack.
Right.
And then keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth, I mean, here's my stance on it, my initial stance. Because, like, I don't know where I land on this. If we're talking about somebody's marital status and open marriage status, that's their fucking business.
Exactly.
I've got nothing to do with that. If they want to be in an open marriage, good for them.
Right.
If they don't want to be, good for them.
Right.
Not my business.
Right.
Until Will or Jada comes up to me specifically and says, hey,
what's your opinion on my open marriage?
Right. Until then, not my business.
Sure.
My judgment doesn't fucking matter because I'm not those people.
Mm-hmm.
And in thinking about this, yeah, Will acted aggressively, I suppose. I mean, and you could make the case that the venue wasn't the right place. I don't know that I'd necessarily fault Chris Rock in this for one specific reason. He's a comedian. He's up there telling roast-like jokes. This is his job at this one event. This happens all the time. From what I presumably, he roasted other people as well.
Okay.
I didn't see the whole thing.
Okay.
But this is his job. Tasteful joke? No. Right? Probably in poor taste and maybe could have been left off? Sure. But that's Chris Rock's style of comedy.
I mean,
it always has been.
Sure. Like the thing that for me on this one is like the way that I've seen like the vast majority of like Team Chris on this is presenting it as, this is uncivilized and I thought we had moved past this.
God, did you watch the presidential debates? I didn't because I knew what was going to happen.
Well, nobody slapped anybody, and that's the part that they have the issue with, is that somebody slapped somebody over a disagreement in opinions.
Right.
Right. And to me, like, honestly, where I feel like where we're at is the joke itself, like making a joke about somebody's medical shit, not particularly civilized.
No, not tasteful.
Not tasteful. No, not civilized.
Not civilized. Okay.
Like this is just it. Like if you want to roast somebody over their choices, their actions, their behavior, things that they can have some modicum of control over, that's one thing. You know, like roasting Harvey Weinstein for being a rapist. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he could have just not done that.
Well,
you know what I mean? And that would and that problem is solved. But she can't help.
Well, okay. And is that to go one step further and say it is Chris Rock's fault because he didn't do the research? Because, like, are we assuming that Chris Rock knows every instance about Jada's life?
My understanding
you know what I mean?
is
so, like,
my understanding is that this is a thing that has been out there for a while. I don't follow celebrity news closely enough to know about it, but like my understanding is that this is a thing that has been out there for a minute. So
would you say it's his responsibility to know if he's going to make that joke?
I mean, I feel like you probably should, you know, maybe have an inkling of whether or not your joke is going to land well, just as a comedian in general.
Well, from what I understand, the joke landed pretty well.
Like if you're going to do comedy, you know, you should know if your joke is going to land in the audience that you're presenting it to. And if the audience that you're presenting to is the butt of the joke, and this is a butt of a joke that is from a medical condition, maybe you don't want to do that.
I suppose. and your point is valid. Like, and that's where I'm at with it. There's kind of a gray area here. It's like, is this his responsibility? Should he really have to go through a roast style thing and do background research on everybody?
Where do you think he's getting the roast to start with?
Basic appearance. It's just, I mean, you can tell that from looking at her in a picture.
Sure.
You could
got a shaved head. Sure.
Yeah, you could make the assumption. And I've also heard the argument, not that I really believe it, but there is the devil's advocate argument that G.I. Jane was a bad bitch.
Sure.
Right? She was strong. She was tough. She was resilient. She just happened to be bald.
And from what I understand, also cheated on her husband.
I don't know. Maybe.
Or something. I don't know.
But
never saw it.
I'm just saying.
But like that's what I've heard is that's where the dig at their open relationship was being tossed in.
And this is one of those things where I really wish I had more time to dig into this type of thing, because I can land on both sides, because you and I did. You were the generation, 2 before mine. So like
5. Fuck it.
Really? See, yeah. Took a while, but we wore him down. I came from a generation where if you weren't getting insulted by the people you were around, you knew they didn't like you. Right?
Yeah.
We tossed insults. You and I toss around insults.
Sure.
All the time.
All the time.
Because that's just who we were growing up.
Right.
And I understand that the generations have changed.
Yeah.
You don't do that anymore, at least not with certain audiences. And I have no problem with that. But I'm wondering if this will then be just the elimination of the, quote, roast style comedy. Because, I mean, think of the amount of work. If you went on for a 15-minute set and you had, 5 people on your target list.
Sure.
How many hours do you have to spend making sure that every joke is going to be okay versus,
I feel like it's really not hard to like pick certain things that are just stuff you don't joke about,
I suppose,
at other people's expense. You know what I mean? Like they're I mean, plenty of comedians have made it by punching up.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's plenty of people to punch up at.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to fucking target the woman who has a disease and now has to change her appearance against her will in order to accommodate making the disease functional. You know, like, that's just shitty behavior to me. Like, I'm right there with you. To me, it's, and I've talked about this with the people who are against transgender hormonal therapy, right, is that is the medically accepted, I mean, not to shaving the head, but like, you know what I mean, like that is the medically accepted practice, is you treat people the gender that they feel they are,
right?
That's the best health benefit for them. Turning around and to not do that is equivalent to blowing smoke in the face of a lung cancer patient.
Right.
And that to me is basically what this is it's a lesser degree. You know, it's not quite as like critical of a life-threatening type situation or something like that, but it's the same general vibe. It's just to a lesser degree. You're blowing smoke in the face of a lung cancer patient.
Yeah.
And that's just not cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's a dick move. And
that joke would have landed great 10 years ago.
Sure.
15 years ago.
Sure. But we've changed as a society and we're becoming better, I would hope. At least those of us who are changing,
right,
are becoming better.
Right.
People in general, you know, and for us to be able to turn around and say, hey, no, we want this society to be like this, I don't think is a bad thing.
No, I suppose you're not wrong. I guess, yeah, just the conflict for me was just, you know, that's how we grew up, and it's perfectly okay to accept change and move forward.
But
so I could see both sides, and there's no reason for me to say that you know, maybe Chris Rock just should have been a little more tasteful with his joke selection.
Sure. Well, but
and this all could have been avoided.
Is we still roast each other all the fucking time, and even through all this time that we've been roasting each other, there have been times where there are certain things that just aren't on the table.
Yeah.
And we respect that.
That's why you can roast people, because you are respectful
right.
of those things.
Right.
I don't want to get roasted today. Cool. What's going on, homie? What's up?
Right.
We can talk. We don't have to do that.
Right.
That's why you can do that when the time is right.
Right. Exactly. And I just think, okay, he misfired. Okay, Will reacted. That's the end of it. You know what I mean? Like, making it about anything beyond that is, you know, like, why the fuck are we spending so much time on this?
Well, thank you so much for checking us out today. This has been Deviance Welcome. You can check out more episodes and get access to the latest everything on our website, volatilepatients.com. There you can sign up for the mailing list and tell us what kind of topics you'd like to hear. Check out the sock meds if that's your thing, facebook.com/volatilepatientsmusic.
On Twitter, spelled VOLATYLPATIENCE, spelled weird because Twitter did not give us enough characters.
Thank you, Twitter.
And spelled normally, volatile_patients on Instagram because Instagram did give us enough characters.
Thank you, Instagram. We will get Sell off the struggle bus hopefully by next week.
I'm just thirsty.
You can check out the YouTube channel at Deviance Welcome or at Volatile Patients for the music-specific channel. Check out the Deviance Welcome Facebook group where you can continue the discussion with us. Remember to give us a review on Apple, and March was fun. I'm sure April will be just as entertaining. And we'll see you next week. Say bye to the people, Sal.
Bye to the people.